Funke Agbor. I'm a senior partner at Denton's Acres Law, also at Adekpetun Caxton Martins Agbor and Shogun. I've been in practice since 1982 when I was called to the Nigerian bar. I studied law at the University of Lagos, qualified and graduated in 1981. I also did a master's in law in 1984 at the University College. And in 1985, I started full legal practice in the law firm of Fola, which was a maritime law practice. And therefore, it actually started my career as a maritime lawyer. In fact, I knew that I wanted to do maritime law because when I did my master's in the UK, I chose maritime law subjects. And I thought, well, when I got back to Nigeria, it would only make sense for me to practice in a law firm that did maritime law. And I didn't actually know of any in particular. But when I got back, I actually started looking around. There were like maybe 4 or 5 tops law firms that did maritime law. And so I started working in one of them. And actually that set up my career in maritime law. And I then, after this long practice, 1985, I finally became a senior advocate of Nigeria in 2016. That was actually a long time coming because my male peers in university who qualified at the same time as me, in fact, I think the earliest of them who became SAN in 2003 or 2004. So you can imagine that me becoming SAN in 2016, that was really, it took some time. But anyway, that's another story, which I probably will share with you here at some point. There was something my boss, I had only one boss, Fola, when I started working in 1985. I actually worked with him for 7 years until 1993, thereabouts, when I joined the partnership of Adekpetun Caxton Martins Agbor and Shogun. And I used to work 6 days a week. I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the time, 6 days a week. To go to, to have a Saturday off, to go to a wedding or to attend something, because Saturdays were meant to be holidays. It was a weekend. I would have to think about it for about weeks on end, how I was going to tell him that I wanted to attend a wedding 3 weeks before that time and all of that. So I worked 6 days a week. I mean, today, I think that's almost unheard of in a formal setting. And he used to make sure, he didn't treat me like a girl, so to speak. In fact, he was like another father for me. He made me do all the things that anybody would be expected to do. Today, there are some places, oh, it is a lady, I would say, oh, she shouldn't have to go there, send a young man there, all of that. But he sent me everywhere. There are parts of Lagos that people wouldn't want their children to go to or drive to or whatever. Or some clients that we had clients who were like these really old families, and you'd go to their houses and they had all these sort of fetishish things in their homes and all of that. But as far as I was concerned, it was a client. So I would go there. I would drive to there was no part of Lagos I wouldn't drive to. And even traveling, I'd get on the plane, and in those days the planes were just so, the safety structures for aviation was not as good as it is now. We'll be sitting at the tarmac, they'll be fixing the tires of the plane before you get on the plane to go to Enugu or Port Harcourt or anything like that. I used to go to Port Harcourt a lot. I enjoyed going to Port Harcourt, go to court in those places, because obviously those were the coastal cities where we had maritime matters and the court sat there. And then, talking about challenges in the maritime space, if you needed to maybe perhaps board a vessel to assist a ship captain who was in trouble with the authorities, maybe you had to go and sit with them and be there while the police or somebody was interviewing them. I would have to go onto the tankers, climb up into the ship, either use the Jacob's ladder. I think it was, they would send a plank down and I would climb up with my file and all of that. So it was really, really extraordinary. For me, it was just a whole new experience, which was so exciting for me. Obviously, sometimes I'll be afraid and all of that, but I would do it. So I think I was well prepared, really, at the end of the day, to be who I, turned out to be. I mean, at the end of the day, today, for instance, I'm the president of Maritime Law Association of Nigeria. And how did that come to be? Because I worked with my boss, who was on the executive at the time, 1985. I've been in that organization since 1985. First as a bag-carrying young person, carrying the books or files or briefcases of my bosses to the meetings, and then becoming assistant secretary, and then becoming secretary, and then becoming the second vice president, and then becoming the second vice president, then the first vice president, and then the president of the Nigerian Maritime Association. That was not a plan, but it was a plan in the making because I took the steps that I needed to take to get to that position. So if you do everything properly, if you do things at the right time, in the right place, in the right moment, I think things will generally fall into place. And obviously everybody needs a bit of luck. So I think for me, it does happen that way. And I think I take a lot of, I think that my boss did me a great service by not making me shy, not shying away from putting me in places where I could actually really operate and do well in, by trying to protect me rather than trying to protect me because I was a woman. And so I think we should not fall on being women as a weakness. It's a strength. So I think that also helps. Becoming an SCN or even being a female lawyer in practice has its own peculiar challenges, which is not to say that, there are a lot of women who are lawyers. There are a lot of women who are lawyers, and a lot of them are judges today. But in terms of practice generally, there are just some natural inhibitors to progress. And I think that is not necessarily peculiar to law. But if you're going to be a litigator, or if you're going to be an advocate, somebody practicing in the courts, there's a time, everything is time bound. The courts begin at 9 and they don't end much more before 3 o'clock. And then you still have to go back to the office to complete your work. So I know that a lot of women of my generation, a lot of them wanted to work in a more sort of regular place of work, maybe like a bank, or maybe in government and the ministries, that sort of thing, where your hours, or in an embassy, that sort of thing, where your hours were maybe 9 to 4, 9 to 3, that sort of thing. Because obviously to be able to get to work for 9 o'clock, to be in court for 9 o'clock, you need to prepare for court. And you are not going to be able to do any school runs for sure. Or you're going to have to do those school runs really, really early. So there are these natural inhibitors. Obviously if you're married or if you're single, yes, it's a different issue completely. But as a married woman, husband, children, you're meant to be nurturing them. Where's the time to nurture when you're busy trying to nurture your cases in court for your clients and for your boss? So there are these natural inhibitors, but they can always be overcome with some planning, with a lot of luck, and obviously with a supportive husband. So those are the ways that one tries to surmount these things. And I think that for women in particular, I always think that it's, and for me, I've always thought that, or rather I came to learn that it's important to have role models that you can sort of take soundings from about every stage of your professional life. And because these role models, if they are women, it means they probably have gone through the same thing that you are going through, and they have walked through it. And therefore they might have some nuggets of wisdom that they could share with you in terms of taking the next step forward in your career, if you're interested in or growing your career. So in terms of So for strategies for dealing with that, I think those are the sort of areas that I would think of. And also, with anything that you're doing, you have to have knowledge. You need to strengthen your skills. You have to strengthen yourself. You have to invest in yourself. Take time to learn. Take the time to improve yourself. And so that when you have that seat at the table, your voice will be heard. So it's really, really key. And I think that mentorship, for me, mentorship is really key. And it runs through every single aspect of what one is going to be discussing today. Even, your story will be full of all kinds of pitfalls along the way, obstacles, and that's just life. So the important thing is to be able to pick yourself up, and you will learn that from other people who have gone before you. For young women who are looking to become, senior people in law, or even maybe a senior advocate of Nigeria, you need to think. Sometimes, it helps to think like a man. Sometimes, they're very strategic. And I think young women have a lot to learn from their fathers and from the male people around them. And for even successful women, they're very, very strong, successful women, even people who have mothers who are who work in the marketplace, who are traders. These are very strong role models. They are strong pillars of their communities. So they're people that you can learn a lot from. Just, there's parallels in every situation. It might sound rustic, but there's still a parallel, because obviously they've gone through childbearing, having a husband, looking after children, looking after aged parents, which is what everybody tends to go through. And they still succeed becoming the chief market person, and even from there to all sorts of other positions in life, because they are strong people and strong role models. So it doesn't matter what state of life or what kind of business it is you're doing. The process is always the same. Be strong, be focused, be committed, learn. Be open to new things, to creative things, open to new thoughts, and you always get better. Important is just to get better at everything. And so I was going to say, for young women, learn from your fathers, learn from your husbands. Everybody is strategic. You need to plan. All these young men who became SANs at age 39, at age 40, it was a plan. So we have to plan. I didn't plan, which is why my classmates who were male became SANs in 2003, 2004, and I became an SAN in 2016. But for me, I think I was better prepared to be an SAN in 2016 than I would have been in 2003, because I probably wouldn't have taken it as seriously as I should have at that time. So, and I wasn't prepared for it. It wasn't something that I was thinking about, or it was not important to me at the time. So one needs to be strategic. One needs to plan. One needs to actually have, it's like a project. Just like anything you're going to be doing, it's like a project. You plan for it. Look, what are the criteria? Find out what the criteria is. See whether you are able to meet it. If you're a barrister, if you're a court-going person, yes, you'll be able to meet it, because you probably have enough cases to do over a period of time. Set yourself targets and try to meet those targets. And it's just a long walk, and it just takes time to get there. But get there, you will, if you plot the graph, if you take the time, invest in yourself, find mentors. And one thing I always say, even for those of us who people consider as successful, we have to find ourselves the mentees as well. Just as a mentee should find a mentor, the mentors should find themselves mentees. That's how we help ourselves get around all of these so-called obstacles. So those are the few words that I have on this subject. Thank you.